Hello and welcome to Books and Beyond, the show where we help people personify their aspirations. I'm your host, Jimmy Bennett. Before I get to our guest this week, I have a couple of things I'd like to talk about. One is I'd like to put a plug in for CAPA, the Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association. We're the Southeastern chapter. We meet at the Groton Public Library the third Monday of every month at 6:30. Anybody that has anything to do with the written word, if you want to learn how to write or want to learn how to publish a book or just meet with other people, it's great for inspiration and great networking. We encourage everybody to come on down, show up, and see what we're all about. The other thing I want to talk about is a shameless plug for Matt Goldman, who is going to be at the Groton Public Library. He's going to be the featured artist from December 2nd till December 28th. He's down in the main meeting room at the Groton Public Library. His art will be up there. And there's an opening reception on December 2nd, a Saturday, which is 10 to 4. Matt is a great illustrator, quite the artist, and an author. He's been on my show before. Great guy. I encourage everybody to go down there and check out his work. All right, so let's get to our guest this week, Paula Goldman, a new author.
Yes.
All right. I met Paula through Kappa and Matthew, and we've been going, well, I guess for quite a while, a year now, maybe?
At least, yeah.
At least that or so? Mm-hmm. Okay. So come and tell us, what's the name of your book?
My book is called Out of the Victim Box. It's a teaching memoir of a woman's journey toward healing from childhood sexual abuse.
That's a hard subject.
It was.
And I give you much kudos and a lot of props for coming forward. That's a tough subject to broach, a tough subject to get through.
It was a tough subject to write because it was my life.
Yeah. Have you been writing all your life? I mean,
in a way, yes. As a nurse, I always had to write in charts, and I got very creative, according to my bosses. But I was also an elderly advocate in the state of Rhode Island for many years, and I had to write reports for the court.
Right.
And so I got into creative writing that way because I had to give them very succinct descriptions of what was going on in my clients' lives.
Right.
Because these people, their lives were in balance because somebody was looking to take over their life. And we wanted to make sure that was the right person.
Right.
So yes, and technically I have been, but this is the first time I've actually written a book.
Yeah. What made you come about deciding to write? Write the book?
I'm a spiritual person. I'm also a psychic medium, and I have a guide who said to me, enough people have died, it's time for you to write that book. And this was after my 2020 triple bypass graft. And I said, do I have enough time? And he said, you got 20 years, don't waste it. But it's time to write the book because the people that you were writing about, most of them are dead, and it's
Right.
okay. So I said, okay. So a year and a half later, here I am with a book.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. How do you find the process?
Scary. It was also cleansing because I was told about a year ago that this book was going to be the last piece of my therapy about this. And I know a lot of people think, oh God, she waited till 74 to get to be her last piece of therapy, but at least I got it.
Right.
And I look at it as each piece was a burden, like a suitcase full of rocks that I carried with me. And so my shoulders were always down. My head was always down. I had no confidence. And as each piece of the book was finished, another suitcase was left by the riverside. And I didn't have to think about it anymore. And I didn't have to carry it. And now they're all gone.
You know, that's a good point. It just sort of occurred to me. As you say it, like at 74, now that you're almost finished your journey of healing,
Mm-hmm.
and so many people probably never finish.
Right.
Never finish. Never find that. It must be must be very comforting to find peace like that after all this time.
It is, because it makes my life easier. It makes dealing with other people easier. I don't have to worry about motivation, mine or theirs, anymore, because I know where I am, I know who I am, and I'm confident in that. And the reason I wrote my book is to help other people, particularly women, not only women, because men have been molested as well, help them heal faster than I did. Learn those lessons before you get to be 74.
Yeah.
Learn them in your 50s or your 40s. And again, it's a choice. If you want to do the work, you will heal. But it is work, and it's hard work.
Right.
But it's worthwhile work, because the reward in the end is you get you back. You get all those pieces of your soul that were stolen by somebody else. Your innocence, you get that back. You can reconnect with that piece of your soul that was stolen. And just having me back and having me be who I really am, instead of the facade of what everybody expected of Paula, is just like a minor miracle for me.
Yeah. I suppose in a lot of ways, when you bury things like that, you're really burying a part of yourself too. You're not,
Yes.
That's not coming to the surface. It's not developing or growing.
You're burying the victim.
Right.
You are no longer a victim. And a lot of victims focus on, I've got to survive, I've got to survive. No, you have to go beyond survive. You have to become alive again and become who you really are, not who everybody thinks you are or who everybody expects you are. And yet, that was part of a different part of your life. You can leave that behind now and go forward and do whatever you want to do with what's left of your life, which is wonderful, since I've never been able to do much with my life that somebody else didn't expect me to do.
Right.
So it's fabulous. It was a gift.
That's very encouraging to hear, really. So, like, when you started writing this, did you? I'm assuming that this is your story, right?
Yes.
You're writing
Most of it is.
Did you do research
Yes.
about? Because it must be, the numbers must be staggering about sexual abuse and.
They are. There are about 30 different places on the internet that will help you with this. There's also a statistical from the CDC, which unfortunately their statistics go back a few years and they're not current. But 1 in 16 young men claim they have been molested. 3 in 16 women claim they have been molested, and that's only numbers who have come forth.
Right.
And in my day, nobody would listen to you.
Oh yeah, or they wouldn't. Yeah.
Right. Today, they encourage children. If somebody approaches you, if somebody touches you, there's always people you can tell.
Right.
There was nobody you could tell 70 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was difficult because you were branded a liar, because this nice man would never do this to
Right.
you. He was your grandfather. Why would you say that? Because it was true.
Right. Yeah.
But now kids, unfortunately, some kids use that, but at least there's open-mindedness out there, which is what happened with the Catholic priests and the altar boys. Somebody finally started listening,
Right.
which is wonderful, but that doesn't mean there's still not a lot going on.
Right.
And for years, because I've been a nurse, I've heard women's stories for 50 years, because that's how long, 55 years I've been a nurse. And I've heard women's stories, and they tried not to tell me, but I could always tell another victim. So I would encourage them to tell me their stories. And some of their stories are concealed in the book. One person actually gave me permission to tell her story, and again, it's camouflage. But those women who were brave enough to share that with me and hopefully helped them just talk about it. Just being able to say those words, somebody molested me as a child, is freeing in itself. So yes, their stories are hidden in the book, camouflaged as my life story, but most of it is my life story. And I'm not afraid to talk about that. Because the more you're afraid, the more you let fear get in your way, the less you can do with your life.
Right. And it must have been, I know, I mean, it's maybe it sounds not as, I don't know, authentic coming from a man or whatever. But I've often thought about the poor women that have tried to come forward, like you said, not believed and stuff. And even if they are, and they go to a trial, you hear these defense lawyers just, ripping their reputations apart and, trying to break them down. And,
Right.
And you think to yourself, wow, I mean, this person should be, being compensated or at least exonerated, you know what I mean? Or,
Right.
or somebody should be held accountable for their actions, and yet you're making this person sound worse than the guy who actually did it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is, I always thought was just cruel. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like the statement, well, if you dress like a whore, you must want it.
Right.
Women should be allowed to dress any way they want. And if you want to dress sexy because you got a great body, what's wrong with that?
Right.
But that doesn't mean you're giving a man permission to rape you tomorrow.
Right.
But again, that's mindset.
Right.
Has been for centuries, unfortunately. But, women are getting braver. They are coming forward. They are demanding justification. They are putting these perpetrators on trial, and they're winning. And that's the important
I'm
thing.
hoping. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big social media guy. I think that sometimes people share too much on social media, or they, I don't know, just it seems to be over the top.
Right.
Most of the time. But one thing that you have to say has come about, which I believe, is that more people are aware. Sexual predators now, people are on the watch for them.
Oh, yes.
They never were before.
Right.
Like you say, never. I can't even imagine what it must have been like, even back in the early 1900s and 1800s, the sexual predators and what they must have got away with.
Oh, yeah.
And at least nowadays, things are a little bit more, even with cell phones and stuff. They can't snatch kids as easy, and like
Right.
you say, children are educated now too.
Yes.
They're just not like come home and say, "Oh, mommy, somebody touched me." It's like they know.
They know
what
now.
And they know when strangers approach them to say no and not to talk to them. And
Right.
it's very, unfortunately, I don't know if you can ever really kind of end this thing, unless you use really super hard measures.
Yeah.
But it really needs to be addressed because it's a mental issue on both ends.
It is.
The people that do these things have mental issues that need to be addressed.
Definitely.
Definitely, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
But it's worse being a victim, So that was, I see why you wrote the story. How long did you work on your book? How long?
It's been 1.5 years since, and I was actually given not only the title, but the cover, which my friend Sally drew for me. That picture was put in my mind when I was told it was time to write the book. And so I went, okay, I believe in following directions. I am a nurse. Yeah. And so I really had a fight with my publisher because she wanted something different. I said, listen, this is what was given to me. It's going on the beginning of the book. But it took 1.5 years because a lot of it was scary. It was reliving, or as one of my friends said, you're not reliving, you're reviewing as an adult. So once I changed that attitude, it wasn't as frightening to live it again or to review it. And that was the toughest part. And I started with the easy pieces and worked my way into the real core of what went on. And that chapter on Help from the Angels was written last because it was the most frightening. It was what actually happened. And I didn't get very graphic, but I got graphic enough that people could understand what was going on. And also so that women who read it would feel things, because what happens when you're molested is you get numb. You don't feel anything. you don't really see or hear anything. And in my chapter, my angel, my guardian angel, actually took me up to the ceiling and protected me. So I felt nothing when I was being abused, which was a blessing, which I didn't realize at the time, but it was a true blessing. So that when I tried to look back on it, everything was blank, everything was numb. I had to make myself feel those feelings and that anger and that rage and all that stuff that was stuffed down in me. Because if I didn't let it out, it would continue to fester and it would continue to destroy my life with my wonderful partner, Matthew, my husband. So I don't want my life destroyed anymore. I want to live. I want to be free. I want to enjoy. And that's what I want to tell women who read my book. This is to help you be free so you can live again. You can have all the pieces of you back, but you have to work for it.
You know, I want to just highlight that what you just said, because I think that was super profound. That it's not reliving the experience, but reviewing the experience and stuff.
Yes.
Because I can see where a lot of that would help a lot of people. I think bring with memories that are bad memories and stuff. I mean, I was just thinking about that. It's like you're right. It's not really reliving it. You don't have to relive it.
No.
But you need to review it as an adult. You need to think about what happened, and work your way through it, which is incredible. And another point, like you were talking about, you're having a nice relationship with Matt. That's, I think, one of the cruelest things about these types of incidents is those little. It's like ripples on a pond. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You don't realize it, but maybe 20 years later, she might have met Mr. Wonderful, the man that was perfect for her in her life, but something triggered her, no, I don't want anybody getting that close to me, kind of thing. And then you've missed so much.
Right, and that almost happened with us.
Yeah.
I almost sabotaged our initial relationship because I was terrified that this person was going to see the real me, whatever that was,
Right.
But the fear of, oh my God, he's going to find out. He's going to know, and it's going to be my fault, and he's going to blame me, and all this garbage that goes through your brain. And fortunately, he had a cousin I used to talk to, and she said, "Let it go, will ya?" She was a Jersey girl. She said, "Let it go." And I went, "I can't." "Yes, you can. Let it go. That's not him. He didn't do that. He's different." And I said, "Okay, she's right. He's different.
Yep.
He can accept me as I am," and he has. He always has. No matter what goes on between us, we can talk.
Yeah.
And he realizes in his own way that a lot of it doesn't belong to him anyway.
Right.
So he just lets it flow over him. Matthew's pretty good. But a lot of men can't do that. And so this is as much of an education for men as it is for women. This is what your women have been through. Listen, hear what they're telling you. No, it doesn't belong to you. You don't own it. But if you're not careful, it's going to get thrown at you like you do own it unless you listen and let it all out. And yes, counseling is a very important piece of this, and I talk about that a lot. I was in counseling for 13 years to help deal with this. I don't think anybody should be in counseling for 13 years, but it worked for me.
Yeah.
I had a marvelous, marvelous therapist, and she helped me. She was very blunt, and she was marvelous. But she helped me bring out some of the more poignant pieces of what was going on. And again, reviewing helped me hear a lot more of what she originally said, because she has crossed over into spirit now, so I can't talk to her anymore. But I kept notebooks while I was going through therapy, and I would read my notebooks, and I'd say, "Teresa said this," and I was horrified. And now I look at it and say, no, I shouldn't have been horrified. I should have thought about it.
Right.
Did I feel anything while that was going on? I don't want to know that. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You got to let it out. You got to let those feelings flow, or you're going to stagnate again. And you're stuffing. Stuffing does no good, except in a turkey.
Yep.
It does absolutely no good. The more you swallow, the more you're going to choke.
Right.
So let it out where it's safe, because it's not always safe to let it out on your children, your family, your spouse. That's what counseling is all about. And good counselors know that. And there are sexually trained counselors now, which there really weren't a lot of when
Right.
I was younger. But a lot of people are actually trained to deal with sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful. And every town, every state has public places you can go, like they've got mental health clinics that you can go to get help. UCFS right here has their own mental health clinic. Natchog is a mental health clinic. There's somebody out there you can go to get help. And if you don't click with the first counselor after 3 to 6 weeks, get another counselor. Don't be afraid to say, this isn't working for me.
Right.
Because not everybody is a match.
Yep.
And that's what people are afraid of. Oh, they're gonna think I'm terrible if I want to quit. No, they're gonna think you're wonderful if you don't match them. And they can't match you because then they can't help you.
Right.
So my advice to everybody is get some therapy, because without therapy, it's hard to do by yourself. And even with therapy, it's hard to do by yourself,
Yeah. And a lot of it's anonymous, right, too?
Yes, it's all anonymous, yes. And
Because it's
reporting is anonymous, too.
Though I think the stigma's going away a little bit more.
is.
And that's a good thing, because like you say, there used to be quite a stigma attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
And I could see where people didn't want to come forward and embarrass themselves and whatever.
Right, and be blamed.
And be blamed, right?
What did you do? And that's what you think of as a child. What have I done to cause this? You haven't done anything to cause it. You couldn't have stopped it because you had no power as a child.
Right.
And it's not your fault.
Especially children. I mean,
Right.
Some children blame themselves for their parents' divorce.
Right.
I mean, it's not,
That's the way kids are.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's going to be my fault. I did something
Right.
terrible. No, you didn't do anything. It was this person who was warped
Right.
and chose you because you were the weak link that they found.
Right.
And because they had power. And I was also taught adults are always right.
So you're trying to, so you want this to reach, everybody.
Yes.
Men and women alike.
Yes.
But there's probably, what are you hoping, there's a lot of victims out there that you're hoping will take comfort or learn how to start to deal with this?
Right, because I know a lot of women who have never dealt with this.
Right.
And a lot of them will be getting this book
Yep.
as Christmas present. And so if they can read it and at least start to let go, start to deal with it, get some therapy, or start talking, or even if they can talk to me, because I will have a website where they can send me questions, it will help open that final door so they don't have to be trapped in that victimhood, because there's nothing worse than being a victim.
Right.
To get the door open, to get them to get some help. Whether we ever stop this or not, I don't know. That's something for God to figure out, or the angels to help us with. But to get as many people to find help and reclaim themselves, the world will be a better place.
Right.
Because we'll be living on love instead of hatred and fear.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I think that's we mentioned earlier. I think that's really a big point of this is finding that peace, or finding that, getting part of yourself back.
Right. And also knowing that you are capable of love, but you are worthy of love.
Right.
And that's a lot of it. You're not worthy of anything because you feel dirty and unlovable and God, somebody did this to me, or I let somebody do this to me, which was hysterical when I think back on it.
Yeah.
Going to confession and telling the priest I let somebody touch me. I'm surprised he didn't break out laughing.
Yeah.
But he also did nothing about it.
Yeah.
So
Give you a couple Hail Marys to send you on your way.
5 Hail Marys and 5 Our Fathers. Yeah,
Yep.
that was my standard.
We're all good.
Yeah. So, being able to, I just lost my train of thought. I'm having a senior moment.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, how were you planning on networking your book? How's your...
Well, I've talked to several libraries first. There are several women's associations in Connecticut. I used to belong to the Women's Network. I'm going to approach them. I will be sending my book to any college that has a women's studies and ask them to at least review it and consider using it as a workbook. I will have a workbook that goes with it, but have them use it as a study. I'm also going to check some of the nursing programs because this is something nurses are going to
Right.
be. I did it. You know,
Right.
people told me. People tell nurses the darndest things
Oh, yeah.
because we're very trustworthy, and we are. But we shouldn't have to keep that secret.
Right.
So those, I'm hitting any kind of women's organization I can find, and the libraries. The 3 libraries in my area are very open to having me bring my book and do signings. I'm going to try and get it into Bank Square through Lara,
Yep.
the Fox Den
Yep.
writers, Thought Fox.
Thought Fox.
Writers Den, yeah. I'm going to
Yep.
try and get it through her. So I've got some plans. My publisher unfortunately can't help me much, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm capable. And Matt has a lot of outlets because he's been writing for years.
Yes.
So he can help me with all of those
Yep.
as well. So I've got a plan.
Did he help you?
He did. He really
Good.
did.
All right.
He helped
That's
me
good
by
to know.
holding me when I cried
Yeah.
and supporting me when I needed support.
Right.
He's the best. And I also have 2 friends that were always there to listen and read the story as I came out with them. Each one of them would get a copy and they'd sit there and say, well, maybe you need to change that. And how about this? Well, maybe you should
Yeah.
add that. So that, friendship's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's another thing you don't allow yourself when you've been molested because you don't think you deserve.
Right.
And it's
Friendship.
all about deserve. I don't
Yeah.
deserve to be loved. I don't deserve to have friends. I don't deserve this. But the longer you stay in that mindset, the longer you're going to be in pain. And that pain will not go away until you let it out.
Oh, the truth is, you deserve to be happy.
You do. We
So-
all do. Yes.
Well, I think it's great. I can't wait to see. I wish I could be there when you get the books because there's just nothing like getting that,
That
opening
first
that
one.
carton and taking out that first book.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but it'd be great, and we'll be all looking forward to this
Thank
the
you.
printed copy coming through, and you definitely let us know. I mean, we'll talk a cap anyways, and we'll
I hope
find
to
out
have
where
it
your
by
book
the Kappa meeting.
yeah, by when your book launch is going to be and stuff like that. I think the Writers' Den would be a nice place for that.
I think she would be lovely
yeah,
if she could
yeah,
help
she's
me with that.
she's great. She does a great job down there.
And I thank you for this. This was wonderful.
Yep.
And,
Well, thank
helpful.
you so much for being on today, Paula. I appreciate it. And I fervently hope that a lot of people will read your book and a lot of women will take that step to start to heal.
I hope so too.
Which is a wonderful thing,
Thank you.
So that's it today for Books and Beyond. It was a great show. We will see you next time.